Politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments.
Henyard's landlord showed up here to see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent.
Tiffany Henyard's once promising political career has taken a dramatic and devastating turn, transforming from a historic breakthrough as the first black woman elected mayor of Dalton, Illinois, to a scandal-ridden downfall marked by allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and a rapidly deteriorating public image. Initially celebrated for breaking barriers and inspiring change, Henyard's tenure quickly unraveled as mounting accusations of misconduct surfaced, leaving the community reeling. What was supposed to be a period of progress for Dalton has instead been overshadowed by a series of controversies that have deeply shaken the trust of the town's residents. At the heart of the scandal are claims that Henyard misappropriated public funds for personal indulgence, including extravagant purchases that have shocked the community. Among the most egregious accusations is a staggering $43,000 Amazon shopping spree conducted in a single day, a blatant misuse of taxpayer money that has left Dalton residents questioning her priorities and judgment. Records also reveal lavish spending on first-class flights, five-star hotel stays, and personal luxuries, such as a $10,000 stay at the Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta. Decisions that have only exacerbated Dalton's growing financial crisis. These revelations have cast a dark shadow over Henyard's leadership as the town, once hopeful for revitalization, now grapples with the reality that its mayor's actions have deepened its financial instability. Critical projects have stalled or been abandoned, and debt has spiraled out of control under her administration. Once aligned with her vision for the town, trustees have found themselves scrambling to undo the harm caused by Henyard's alleged actions. But the damage has already been done. Dalton's fiscal health, which seemed poised for an upward trajectory, now teeters on the brink of collapse, and Henyard's actions have left lasting scars on the community. The consequences of her decisions extend far beyond finances. Henyard's fall from grace has dealt a blow to both the public trust and the future of Dalton. The promise of transformation has instead led to a fractured town, burdened by the very decisions meant to inspire progress. Critics argue that her conduct has not only tarnished the office she holds, but also deeply harmed the fabric of Dalton itself. As residents find themselves struggling with the fallout of her choices, calls for accountability have grown louder, with demands for transparency regarding how public funds were redirected for personal gain instead of being used to improve the community. Henyard's political future now hangs in the balance as legal investigations into her financial activities intensify. Her status as a trailblazer in local politics has been overshadowed by scandal, and her once promising leadership is now eclipsed by public outrage. In the wake of her alleged misconduct, Dalton stands on the precipice of disillusionment, with the future of its leadership uncertain and residents yearning for resolution and a return to integrity. Henyard's rise and fall serve as a cautionary tale about the devastating consequences of corruption and the unchecked abuse of power as legal battles intensify, and the town continues to suffer from the financial wreckage left in her wake. Henyard's legacy now stands as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in a lack of oversight and the betrayal of public trust. What began as a beacon of hope and a symbol of progress has become a sobering reflection of how quickly leadership can falter, leaving deep scars on a community that once believed in change despite the overwhelming evidence against her and the growing demand for her resignation. Henyard has shown increasing defiance, refusing to cooperate with efforts to resolve Dalton's fiscal problems. Her repeated opposition to proposals aimed at limiting the town's excessive spending, including vetoing measures to implement stricter financial controls and bring in independent auditors, has left the town's administration in a state of gridlock. This deadlock has only fueled public outrage, with town hall meetings becoming increasingly tense, noisy demonstrations erupting in the streets, and social media campaigns demanding her immediate resignation. Yet Henyard has remained steadfast, presenting herself as a misunderstood leader unfairly targeted by critics. In a series of bizarre public appearances, she has further alienated even her staunchest supporters. At one town meeting, Henyard reportedly arrived with a golden microphone, an ostentatious gesture that stunned the audience. At another, a DJ allegedly played Rihanna's "Be asterisk 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 H better have my money," seemingly mocking the gravity of the situation. These antics, rather than calming the storm, have only intensified public anger as Henyard's grip on power weakens. Dalton's residents find themselves at a crossroads. The town, once filled with hope for a brighter future under her leadership, now faces an uncertain future. With legal investigations underway and widespread calls for reform, Dalton stands on the brink of a critical turning point. The fallout from Henyard's actions may not only serve as a warning to others in positions of power, but also as an opportunity for the town to rebuild and restore the faith of its residents in the end. Henyard's dramatic fall from grace is a cautionary tale of the destructive power of unchecked leadership. It highlights the dangers of corruption and financial mismanagement and underscores the importance of accountability in public office. As Dalton grapples with the consequences of her tenure, the hope remains that the lessons learned from this dark chapter will inspire the reforms necessary to restore the community to its former strength. The growing perception that Tiffany Henyard is out of touch with the gravity of Dalton's crisis has only deepened in recent weeks, as her bizarre antics and consistent failure to address the serious allegations against her have intensified public frustration. Her increasingly erratic behavior, such as arriving at meetings with a golden microphone and allowing the DJ to play "Be H better have my money," has further alienated even her staunchest supporters. These strange actions, paired with her refusal to engage meaningfully with the allegations of financial misconduct, have created a sense of growing unease. Once a vocal supporter of Henyard's leadership, Dalton's trustees have now turned on her, expressing regret for their early backing. In hindsight, they view their initial support as a mistake, particularly as Henyard continues to avoid confronting the accusations leveled against her. Her rare and increasingly odd public appearances have only fueled concerns that she is in denial about the consequences of her actions, further alienating the public and eroding trust in her leadership. Meanwhile, suspicions have emerged that Henyard may be attempting to flee Dalton before facing legal repercussions, as rumors swirl about her potential plan to escape responsibility. The FBI's growing focus on tracking her whereabouts, combined with her silence on key issues, has led to fears that she might attempt to evade the consequences of her actions, adding another layer of uncertainty to the situation. What began as a political struggle has spiraled into a full-blown crisis marked by her defiance, erratic behavior, and refusal to address the legitimate concerns of Dalton's residents and officials. This leadership vacuum has left Dalton in a state of chaos, gripped by financial woes and a pervasive sense of dysfunction. As the town grapples with mounting debt and deteriorating public services, Henyard's inability or unwillingness to confront the allegations against her has left the future of Dalton hanging in the balance. Residents and officials are increasingly questioning whether Henyard has any intention or ability to lead effectively, and as tensions rise, the likelihood of legal consequences becomes ever more probable. Calls for accountability continue to mount, and many fear that the town may endure even greater strife before reaching a breaking point. Suspicion surrounding Henyard's leadership has intensified further following the indictment of Deputy Police Chief L.S. Lacey on charges of bankruptcy fraud. The development has raised concerns that Henyard may be more deeply involved in corruption than previously thought, suggesting a potential pattern of financial misconduct within her administration. With public and legal pressure mounting, the trustees of Dalton have taken urgent steps to curb Henyard's influence. They have implemented stricter financial controls, revoked her access to local credit cards, and launched an impartial investigation into her financial dealings. However, these efforts have met fierce opposition from Henyard, who has vehemently blocked all attempts to introduce independent audits or external scrutiny of her administration. Henyard's resistance to transparency has deepened the crisis, further eroding trust in her leadership and worsening Dalton's already precarious situation. The town's infrastructure continues to crumble under financial strain, and concerns are mounting about the future of essential public services. If Dalton's financial health continues to deteriorate, key personnel and services could be at risk, heightening fears about the town's ability to recover. Henyard's defiance has effectively paralyzed the town's government, as her opposition to reforms undermines the trustees' efforts to stabilize the administration. Attempts to create an emergency budget to address urgent fiscal concerns have been delayed or blocked, leaving residents increasingly alarmed about the town's future. The public's frustration has reached new heights, fueled by suspicions of Henyard's last-ditch efforts to cling to power or avoid accountability. Rumors of her possible connections to Lacey's legal troubles, along with her continued resistance to transparency, have sparked speculation about whether she is actively working to shield herself from legal action as the situation grows more tense. Trustees and residents are questioning whether Henyard is considering drastic measures to escape the escalating scrutiny. Many fear that she might attempt to flee before facing the full consequences of her actions. The uncertainty surrounding her leadership and the possibility of her evading accountability have left Dalton in a state of limbo, with the community unsure whether Henyard will face the consequences of her alleged financial misconduct or whether the town will endure even greater hardship before this crisis comes to an end. The FBI's investigation into Tiffany Henyard has intensified, signaling the seriousness of the allegations against her. Federal authorities are closely scrutinizing the full extent of her financial activities, aiming to determine the scope of any potential misconduct. For residents of Dalton, this investigation represents a glimmer of hope that justice will ultimately prevail. However, uncertainty remains over when or if legal action will be taken against Henyard, leaving the community in a state of limbo as Dalton faces an ongoing crisis of governance and public trust. The tragic combination of political and personal events stemming from Henyard's actions has pushed the town to the brink of unraveling. Her refusal to address these issues with transparency or accountability has fostered a toxic environment of distrust and division. As the community grapples with the fallout, residents are deeply concerned about the future of their town and are watching the investigation closely, hoping it will provide clarity and resolution to the chaos that has engulfed Dalton. Although the prospect of Henyard's eventual removal from office grows increasingly likely, the damage caused by her administration leaves lingering questions about whether the town can recover. For now, Henyard's tenure appears to be on the brink of collapse. Her steadfast opposition to reform, mounting legal troubles, and resistance to public accountability have pushed Dalton closer to financial and political disintegration. It remains uncertain whether Henyard will face consequences for her actions before stepping down, or if further upheaval within the community will be necessary to fully uncover the extent of her alleged misconduct. As Dalton residents anxiously await the resolution of this dramatic saga, the investigation intensifies and public pressure mounts, placing Dalton's future in jeopardy. The tide of justice seems to be turning, but its timing and outcome remain unclear. When Tiffany Henyard was elected as Dalton's first African-American woman mayor in 2021, her victory was seen as a historic and hopeful milestone, a turning point for a town burdened by long-standing challenges. Her election inspired a wave of optimism, with promises of community-driven projects, economic revitalization, and effective management of Dalton's pressing issues. For a time, Henyard appeared to be delivering on these promises. Her popularity surged as her administration gained recognition for what seemed like progressive initiatives. However, within just 2 years, the hopeful narrative began to unravel. What had started as a journey of inspiration quickly devolved into a chaotic tale of scandal, allegations, and mismanagement that more closely resembled a reality TV drama than the orderly governance of a small town. By 2022, the cracks in Henyard's administration had become impossible to ignore. Reports of financial misconduct, misuse of public funds, and lavish personal spending engulfed her government, causing widespread disillusionment. Allegations range from extravagant expenditures, such as luxury hotel stays and first-class flights, to a $43,000 single-day Amazon shopping spree that outraged residents. These accusations of fiscal irresponsibility were compounded by claims of obstruction. Henyard vetoed measures designed to enforce financial accountability and block the hiring of outside auditors, further deepening suspicions about her conduct and intentions. Her once supportive base began to crumble, with even former allies on the town's board of trustees turning into some of her harshest critics. By then, Dalton's administration was in complete disarray. The town itself faced mounting challenges, including deteriorating infrastructure and a worsening financial crisis. Public trust had eroded to the point where town hall meetings had become arenas of confrontation. Demonstrations grew louder, and social media campaigns called for Henyard's resignation. Adding to the chaos was Henyard's increasingly erratic behavior. At official meetings, she appeared with a golden microphone and allowed a DJ to play Rihanna's "Be asterisk 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 H better have my money," gestures that drew ridicule and frustration rather than support. These antics only alienated more of her constituents, fueling doubts about her fitness for leadership and reinforcing the perception that she was out of touch with the town's needs. Meanwhile, the FBI's escalating investigation into her financial activities cast an ever-growing shadow over her leadership. Despite the scandal surrounding her, Henyard appeared determined to cling to power, presenting herself as a misunderstood champion of the people under attack by critics. She branded herself as a super mayor, but her rhetoric and grandiose behavior alienated even more of her supporters, leading to further speculation about her ability to lead effectively rumors about Henyard's potential ties to Deputy Police Chief L.S. Lacey, who was indicted for bankruptcy fraud, fueled additional concerns. These connections raised questions about the extent of corruption within her administration, suggesting that her leadership might be even more entangled in misconduct than previously thought. As legal and public scrutiny mounted, fears grew that Henyard might attempt to flee or evade accountability before facing potential legal consequences. In response to Henyard's increasing defiance, trustees scrambled to limit her influence. They implemented strict financial controls, revoked her access to local credit cards, and initiated impartial inquiries into her financial dealings. Yet, these efforts were met with relentless obstruction from Henyard, who resisted outside scrutiny and continued to block attempts to introduce reforms. This resistance created a governance gridlock that further exacerbated Dalton's financial woes, destabilized essential services, and pushed the town deeper into crisis residents. Watching the ongoing investigation, with a mix of frustration and hope, remain uncertain about what the future holds. The town they had envisioned as revitalized and flourishing under Henyard's leadership has instead become a symbol of mismanagement. As Dalton struggles to recover, the possibility of Henyard facing legal consequences looms large. Yet, the town's future remains in jeopardy as Henyard's defiance and the town's crumbling infrastructure put Dalton at risk of further disintegration. The unfolding investigation, public outcry, and increasing political instability have left Dalton in a state of flux. With the prospect of Henyard's removal growing more likely, the question remains: can Dalton recover from the damage done by her leadership, or is the town on the brink of collapse? The answer, as the investigation continues, remains uncertain. Dalton stands as a cautionary tale of the consequences of unchecked power, reflecting on Tiffany Henyard's rise and fall. Once hailed as a beacon of hope and progress, Henyard's political career has devolved into a vortex of scandal and controversy. As mounting evidence of financial malfeasance and mismanagement continues to surface, her former supporters have turned against her, frustrated by her refusal to address or acknowledge the growing allegations. The situation has left the town divided, with many residents and officials hoping for justice as the saga unfolds, while others remain uncertain whether Henyard will face the consequences of her actions. As the supervisor of Thorne Township, Henyard held significant influence over 2 local government departments, which only deepened public distrust when it became clear she prioritized personal gain over the well-being of Dalton and Thorne Township. Instead of using her position to foster progress, Henyard has faced accusations of corruption and reckless spending. Her actions have led to heated exchanges with both Dalton and Thorne Township trustees, who have decried her behavior, attributing much of Dalton's financial woes to her leadership allegations of excessive personal spending. Travel expenses and an opaque budgeting process have rocked her administration. Trustees and residents alike have expressed their concerns, with some holding Henyard directly accountable for Dalton's insolvency. Similarly, complaints from Thorne Township trustees echo these worries, suggesting a troubling pattern of fiscal irresponsibility across Henyard's jurisdiction. Reports of questionable monetary practices and extravagant spending habits have fueled speculation that Henyard transitioned from a leader once seen as a transformative force to one overtaken by power and corruption. As financial distress deepened and public trust eroded, Henyard's original ambitions for change were overshadowed by scandal. This shift from a symbol of potential transformation to a controversial, embattled figure has left a trail of disillusionment and resentment. Many residents now question how a tenure that began with so much promise could devolve into accusations of misuse, mistrust, and mismanagement. Henyard's response throughout the turmoil has been marked by a mix of defiance and denial. She has staunchly defended her decisions and blamed critics for undermining her efforts, but this refusal to confront the gravity of the situation has only further alienated her allies and emboldened her opponents. The growing discord within her administration, coupled with public outrage, has left Henyard's position increasingly precarious. What began as a hopeful era of progress has unraveled into a storm of accusations, and her tenure is now a cautionary tale of missed opportunities and the dangers of unaccountable leadership. For Dalton and Thorne Township, the fallout remains unresolved, and residents are left anxiously wondering whether justice will be served or whether Henyard will persist in her defiant stance until her term concludes. Her legacy is now tainted by controversy, setting an example of the dire consequences of neglecting public trust.